TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom ve'erev tov, good evening. Welcome to our daily TV7 Israel News Bulletin, broadcast from Jerusalem. Israel celebrates its 78th Independence Day, following a day of mourning commemorating its 25,648 fallen troops. Germany pushes back at an attempt by Spain, Slovenia, and Ireland to suspend the EU-Israel Association Agreement. And the 2-week cessation of hostilities between the United States, Israel, and Iran is set to expire tonight. Israel is celebrating its 78th Independence Day, commemorating the state's establishment in 1948 with limited festivities in light of the tense security situation. Prior to tonight's festivities, which will continue well into tomorrow, Israel commemorated its Remembrance Day in honor of its 25,648 fallen troops. The main state ceremony took place earlier today with the IDF chief rabbi eulogizing the thousands of troops who've sacrificed it all for the sake of Israel's independence.
Dear holy brothers and sisters, heroes of Israel, the greatest of spirit and action, who have laid down their lives in the name for the sanctity of God, the people, and the land, in the wars of Israel, as part of actions of defense, retribution, and defense, as you fulfilled your tasks and service. To all the warriors of the underground and brigades of warriors, and all those who fell in the people's campaigns, and all the service members of the communities of the intelligence, defense, policy, and prison guards, who have given their lives and died for the sake of Israel's rebirth and creation of the state. May the living God remember you in his mercy. May he avenge your pure blood, as was written, "Rejoice, O Gentiles, with his people, for he will avenge the blood of his servants, and render vengeance to his adversaries. He will provide atonement for his land and his people."
Prior to the state ceremony, in a separate memorial service attended by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu yesterday, the Israeli leader, whose own brother was killed in the daring Entebbe rescue operation of 1976, stressed that the deep sorrow of losing a family member does not necessarily get easier over time.
Memorial Day is steeped in deep sorrow, and at the same time it is an anchor of unity. The people remember, the people salute, the people acknowledge deep gratitude to the sons and daughters, thanks to whom our existence is guaranteed. As the prophet Isaiah said, "People of Zion, who live in Jerusalem, you will weep no more." The 25,648 fallen soldiers of Israel's armed forces, joined by the recent fallen on the Lebanese front, Barak Kalfin and Lider Porat, are the foundation of our independence. Jews, Druze, Christians, Muslims, Bedouins, Circassians, and members of other groups. Alongside them, we remember the thousands of victims of hostilities, the fallen soldiers of the civilian home front.
Prime Minister Netanyahu continued by addressing the past 2 years, during the course of which Israel had faced multiple fronts, highlighting Israel's sacrifice for the sake of preserving Western civilization.
The past 2.5 years, we have been engaged in a multi-front war unlike any since the War of Independence. The generation of the War of Redemption, the current generation of victory, inspires immense astonishment with its commitment, its dedication, its great achievements. Since the onslaught of October 7th, since the terrible massacre on Simchat Torah, the IDF and the security forces have been inflicting blow after blow on those who seek our lives. A nation as a lion has risen, a nation as a lion roared. Our flag is stationed from the depths of the Gaza Strip to the Hermon mountaintop in Syria, and our pilots dominate the skies of the region as victorious proof of our superiority over the Iranian axis. We have not yet completed the task, but the world already recognizes our determination to defend ourselves, to defend not only ourselves, but to defend humanity as well from barbaric fanaticism. The small Israel and our great friend the United States are carrying the entire Western civilization on their backs.
נושאות על גבן את הציוויליזציה המערבית כולה.
Turning to Strasbourg, where, ahead of an EU foreign ministerial, Spanish Foreign Minister José Manuel Álvarez said that Madrid, together with the governments of Ireland and Slovenia, would call on the European Union to suspend the EU-Israel Association Agreement.
Spain, together with Slovenia and Ireland, has requested that today there be a discussion and debate on the suspension of the association agreement between the European Union and Israel, based on Article 2, which states that the European Union can only have a relationship with Israel on the basis of respect for human rights.
It is worth noting that while those countries whose governments have adopted clear anti-Israel positions over time are not aligned with the most important countries within the European Union, to include Germany, which believes Europe must engage with Israel diplomatically on matters of contention.
To what extent is the federal government prepared and able to support such demands and possibly enable such sanctions? We consider something like that to be inappropriate. Nevertheless, of course, one must engage in dialogue with Israel about the critical issues.
Berlin's top diplomat continued by addressing Tehran's ongoing public defiance of Washington's key demands for a deal.
We are now urgently calling on Iran to come to Islamabad and engage in constructive negotiations with the United States of America. We call on Iran to immediately restore free and safe shipping through the Strait of Hormuz.
Meanwhile, in Poland, French President Emmanuel Macron, during a joint press conference with Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk, voiced his hope that a resolution would be found between Iran and the United States, stressing that Tehran should recommit itself to its unconditional pledge to reopen the Strait of Hormuz.
We must continue to calm tempers, to move toward the reopening of this route, which is important for international trade, international energy security, and also because these are direct consequences for the lives of our compatriots in Poland, in France, across Europe, and even beyond, across the world. Our position remains the same. We need to settle things through diplomacy. Everyone must calm down. We must return to the decisions that had been agreed on Friday. We must maintain the ceasefire, including Lebanon, for as long as possible and build a lasting peace solution through negotiation on the nuclear issue, the ballistic missiles, Hormuz, and the rest.
It is worth pointing out that France continues to reject the usage of its airspace for U.S. military assets transiting to the Middle East for the prosecution of the war with the Islamic Republic of Iran, forcing the United States to transit all of its air assets through German airspace onwards. Meanwhile, the Ayatollah regime in Iran continues to blame America for not negotiating in good faith, which essentially means that it is not gaining any substantive concessions from America, which the terror regime in Tehran believed it could achieve.
We witnessed that the United States insisted on bad faith and violation of the ceasefire. All of this is evidence that the United States apparently does not show seriousness in the diplomatic process. Unfortunately, the United States has a hard time learning from past experiences. The United States insists on some unreasonable and unrealistic positions.
The Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman further asserted that so long as the United States does not capitulate to demands by the Ayatollah regime, the RGC would not permit freedom of navigation in the strategic Strait of Hormuz.
Until such a situation exists, we cannot speak unilaterally about the normalization of traffic in the Strait of Hormuz.
It is interesting to point out that many European multinational corporations have redirected hundreds of their crude oil and LNG tankers to the United States, essentially diverting the European continent's reliance from the Arab Gulf countries to reliance on American energy exports. Reacting to this development, U.S. President Donald Trump posted on his Truth Social platform, quote, "The Iranian leadership has forced hundreds of ships towards the United States, mostly Texas, Louisiana, and Alaska, to get their oil. Thank you very much." It is important to point out that alongside growing imports from the United States, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Azerbaijan have continued to export large quantities of energy products to include crude oil and LNG through pipelines. The volume exported amounts to approximately one-third of the pre-war volume of exports from Gulf countries through the Strait of Hormuz. Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News, which is made possible by the generosity of our viewers. If you would like to help support TV7 Israel, which is exclusively donation-based, please do so. You can do so via our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. Keep praying for the peace of Jerusalem and redemption of Israel. I'm Jonathan Essen, wishing you a Erev Mevorach, and God willing, until our next update, Shalom from Jerusalem.